Good morning. I know folks are starting to trickle in. Welcome to our monthly webinar series of People for Bikes. All right, as folks are joining, I know they'll continue to trickle in as a Zoom webinar lets you enter. Good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Kyler Blodgett. I'm the State and Local Policy Analyst with People for Bikes. I'm so glad that you're here and taking time to join us for our March segment of our monthly industry webinar series. This month's conversation will be about changing commuter culture through employee-sponsored incentive programs for biking. We have three fantastic panelists we will meet in just a minute. I want to remind everyone that you're welcome to take notes, of course, but we will send out a recording of our time together and a copy of the slides to everyone who registered today. We'll have about 30 minutes together. The first 20 will be our panelists presenting, and the final 10 will be Q&A. So please do use Zoom's Q&A feature in the bottom of your screen to write in your questions throughout so that our panelists can be prepared when we finally get to that portion. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you our panelists. First, we have Anna Walters, Marketing and Communications Manager at Bikes Make Life Better. They're a wonderful partner of People for Bikes that facilitates bike commuting by planning and implementing bike programs for various large organizations. Then we have two in-house folks, John Paul or JP Schaffer, our Northwest Arkansas Bike Business Innovation Director. We'll be talking about what's going on in Northwest Arkansas before zooming out to the macro, what's happening nationally. And last but of course not least, Ryan Burkett, our Director of Enterprise Partnerships here at People for Bikes. So how we'll be spending our time today, did some quick introductions. We'll talk about the history of our organizations and the growth of these employer-sponsored commuter programs, some opportunities, what steps your organization can take, including best practices about how to set up and maintain a strong program for employees, and then talk about some examples, including what People for Bikes is doing right here in our organization. And then, of course, what you can do next to make sure that this is not just a one-off webinar, but something that lives however you intersect with the bike space in your organization. And then, of course, take questions that you'll be submitting to us throughout. And without further ado, I'll pass it off to Anna.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyler. Hey, everyone. Just really quick, I wanted to explain what Bikes Make Life Better does. And it's actually really simple. We help large organizations and universities get more people on bikes. And we do that through an array of programs. So I've listed these programs at the bottom, but they run the gamut from, infrastructure or facilities and amenities. So those awesome bike rooms with lockers and showers, to incentive programs, which is what we're helping John Paul in Northwest Arkansas on. We run bike fleets, so large campus fleets for employees to use to get around during the day. We also have on-site shops, so employee bike repairs are a core part of getting more people to ride bikes and building that bike community. And then we do events and activities, and we're all familiar with this right now as we come into Bike Month. And we also just anything that a company thinks they need bike related, we're here to do. So that's me and my company in a nutshell.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about our work here over the past 18 months in Northwest Arkansas and kind of what we've got in store for the future. Our role here is to partner with employers who are based in Benton County, Arkansas, right up here at the northwest corner of the state, to really grow bicycle transportation within their businesses. And so it's commuting, yes, but we also know the work environment has changed, and many of the organizations we work with have not been fully at the office. So we're really trying to meet folks wherever they are and whatever kind of bike riding they're doing as an entry point for doing more trips for transportation. And so we want to make that safe, social, and seamless. We're using the RideSpot platform, which I know Ryan's going to talk a little bit more about, to help folks with finding routes, with tracking their activities, and then to turn around and kind of add the incentives and gamification element to what they're doing as well. This is about helping the employers realize a return on whatever investments they make in bicycling in the workplace. A lot of the things that Anna just touched on, whether it's the facilities at the end of the trip or the incentive programs, these things take resources. But we know that they're going to have a return in terms of a healthier, a more active workforce that has an impact on the company culture and everything there as well. And so People for Bikes is here, and we're working with Alta Planning and Design, Bikes Make Life Better, a lot of local partners here in Northwest Arkansas to provide programming and then the technology and incentives and just the kind of program support to help increase riding at each of our partner businesses. So we've got a kind of a 5-year horizon on this program. And yeah, next slide, please. So a few of the things that we do just to get started with the partner businesses we're working with. And so currently that's Walmart, their home office, JB Hunt's corporate headquarters, JB Hunt Transportation is also here in Northwest Arkansas. And then we've started working with the Northwest Arkansas Community College, which recently has launched one of 2 in the nation bike tech programs. And so we are helping look at the infrastructure, not just on campus, but to and from campus. So community infrastructure, regional infrastructure for bike transportation. We have taken, and we've got some images here of just some quick build work that we've done to kind of raise the visibility of bike facilities on campus. We're really looking at, how do we get folks all the way from their door to their desk and make sure that everything that they need on that way is convenient and predictable, really. So we're looking at, Northwest Arkansas as a region that's really embraced bicycling. But also, we have this new workplace dynamic, like I mentioned. And so helping kind of pair the 2 of those together. And just, for quick context on our partners here, Walmart has made an announcement that they want to get 10% commuting goal, using alternative transportation, sustainable methods. And so we're focused on kind of like the bicycle element of that. And they are designing a new corporate campus that really will embrace that and will have convenient facilities for showering and bike parking, bike maintenance, things like that. Also helping look at community bike share. JB Hunt has similar facilities. They've invested well in on-site facilities and are located near the Razorback Greenway, which is kind of the regional superhighway for bikes, we'll call it. And we're also, with Northwest Arkansas Community College, looking at its potential as kind of a commuting and bike hub that's very well located in between several trail systems, and kind of looking at a campus and community approach there. And then again, I mentioned RideSpot. What we're using is the RideSpot's enterprise platform, where we can create a private account for a business to actually serve a lot of this content and track their ridership, and kind of keep an eye on the data and metrics there. We like to throw in this 5 things to remember. We really owe this to Anna and her team at Bikes Make Life Better. This was, something where we know that biking should be fun, inclusive, safe, convenient, and empowering. And I think with that, Ryan, I believe I'm turning it over to you at this point.
Actually, I think it's me still.
Oh, that's right.
No worries. Yeah, so as JP mentioned, before we started working with the Northwest Arkansas team, we wanted to come up with just some really basic principles to undergird the work that they were doing to make bike programming there just truly exceptional and to build this bike community. So these might seem kind of basic biking 101, but I think they're worth going over. And the first is that biking should be fun. And we know this actually from studies. There's a great study out of Davis, California, which is the university biking capital of America, we think, that asked participants to define what exactly it was they liked about bicycling. And they generally cited one of or multiple of 8 themes. And those themes were activities, bonding, sensations, feelings, pride, convenience, nice places, and memories. So when it comes down to it, you might save, money on gas, or you might feel healthier, but biking at its core is just really joyful and fun. So we thought it was really important for any incentive programs and just programs in general to really align with that sense of freedom and joy and fun. So on this slide, you'll see some of our concrete ideas for making that happen. I'm not going to go over them all, but you'll get this deck at the end of the presentation, so you can check that out. But it's really anything that is connecting biking with fun or play. Next slide. So biking should be inclusive. This is another really important principle. We know that strong communities are ones where people really feel like they belong, and that's especially true after we're coming out of an isolating pandemic. So members are more likely to aid one another and invite others to join if they feel that they're supported in this kind of movement. We were really excited to work with folks in Northwest Arkansas just because there was so much top-down support for cycling there. Walmart executives are notoriously great at spreading the biking good word. So that's actually a really key component to having a bike culture and community at a large organization, is really just that leadership support. So it's really anything that bolsters and builds a strong bike identity and community at your company. And again, there's some ideas on this slide that I won't go over. Next slide. Okay, so biking should be safe. This is always the number one thing that is cited on studies for barriers to biking, is safety. And in fact, in Northwest Arkansas, we did a survey of other companies, about 108 employees, and asked them, like, what would it take for you to bike? And the number one thing that they cited was safer routes. So it's no surprise that safety is one of the huge concerns for people that are just starting to bike. So in tandem with our excellent programming and making the biking experience just top notch and enjoyable for people, we really want to pair that with safe infrastructure or education that makes people feel safer. Like, a lot of times perception is reality. So getting people comfortable riding in traffic and feeling like they have all the skills to do that is really critical. So really anything that helps the interested but concerned cyclists feel safe when riding is what we want to go for when we're doing programming. Next slide. So biking should be convenient. We as humans take the path of least resistance, and it's no different with cycling. So we really want to make cycling as comparable to driving in terms of speed, comfort, and utility. So that will ultimately help people feel like they want to do it more. And I know that JP talked about the experience from doorstep to dismount to desk. So really, like, digging into that, what is it like for someone leaving their home to being on the street to accessing the campus or their company, to parking their bike, to figuring out a shower or whatever they need to do to get to their desk and get going on their work. So amenities are really important here. Safe bike parking is really important, and just making sure that everything is convenient for your cyclists. Next slide. Lastly, biking should be empowering. So we know that doing something new is really scary, and to many, riding a bike feels about as alien as flying through the air. So we should help assuage those concerns by giving people the knowledge and skills to make them think that, like, biking is easy and have it become second nature to them. So there's a lot we can do in the realm of education, and there's some ideas on this slide for how to make people feel like biking is second nature, and that also cycling is just embraced by everyone and celebrated at their company or organization. And I know that there's a lot of great examples happening in Northwest Arkansas. So JP had some great things to tell you. And I think now I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Back to JP, actually. I think, JP, you're going to wrap up just kind of the programming for Northwest Arkansas. Everybody's eager for me to get the mic. But
right?
It'll come.
Come on, Ryan.
It'll
Help us out here. No, I mean, this is just, wanted to throw a shot up here just from a recent group ride. We try to make these things as low barrier. Everything we do is no drop. We do, fully supported when we do off-road rides. But our Thursday social rides, this was a great shot where we ended up at a beautiful park here, Osage Park, right before the sunset. And so just wanted to throw an image up of that. We're really trying to meet folks where they are. You need a bike, we bring a bike. It's we'll kind of provide any support that would be needed. We do about 4 to 6 activities per month. Some of those are kind of shared between the businesses we're working with, and then others are, just at one particular business partner. We use an ambassador-centered approach in a lot of this work as well, and let them help drive the programming and kind of point us in the direction that we need to be going. And then finally, we're doing these both monthly and annual ride spot challenges, and these are very much similarly put together, where it's like we want to have something that's for a more beginner, intermediate rider. We'll throw something in there for the avid cyclists. So we've got 1,000-mile challenge for the year. Something to engage everybody wherever they are in that kind of stage of bicycling. And with that, I'll hand it off to Ryan.
Thanks, JP. So far in the presentation, they've both Anna and JP have kind of gone over some of the best in practices work that we've done in Northwest Arkansas as several organizations come together to help grow commuter culture in that area. And then my role at People for Bikes is to kind of take that good work and expand it to the rest of the country. So we're going to kind of recap some of the best practices learned from the organizations we've engaged with so far, and then just kind of give you some tangible takeaways at the end here. So some of the best practices of starting a bike benefits program at your place of employment is to baseline existing participation. So you want to know kind of, is your program working? So in order to know if it's working or not, you need to kind of baseline, like how many people are currently riding their bikes as a way of transporting themselves to and from work, or for errands in the off when they're not at work. And then after identifying the existing participation rate, then you'll want to identify what barriers are preventing people from wanting to ride more. We usually do these first 2 lines through a community survey. And then once you identify the barriers, then you can cater the programming that you're going to develop to help answer some of those concerns. Just like Anna had mentioned with the safety concern, can you outline safe routes that employees then would be willing to take? Another thing you need to do for a best practice of setting up a new program is to outline what your goals are. So what do you want that program to accomplish? Identify incentives. So what's going to motivate people to want to participate in your bike benefits programming, and then just make sure everybody's having a blast during the process. And, a couple of Anna's slides provided like best in class examples of how you can motivate people to want to participate just by making things super fun. Next slide, Kyler. So we wanted to give you kind of a working example of like those best practices and how they come to life. So on this slide, we're kind of outlining just what we do at People for Bikes for our internal bike benefits program. So our employees have come together. We surveyed the staff last year. We really put together what we thought was something that would further our impact on the world. And we did that through a bike benefits program. So as an organization, our goals for our program were to encourage bike riding. We wanted our employees to get on their bikes and ride whenever possible. And then we also wanted to continue our stewardship of the bike industry. So by asking the program participants, the People for Bikes employees, what would motivate them to want to ride more often, per usual, this usually happens, but cash always is king when it comes to bike benefit programs. So we definitely took note of people wanting to get paid cash. And then we also wanted to increase that stewardship of the industry. So we ended up doubling down on our cash investment if the money is used within the bike industry. So that's a really exciting benefit for employees. And so far this year, we've seen a ton of participation, which has been really encouraging. And it's just showing us that the bike benefits program really does motivate participation, which is nice. Another thing that you need to identify at the end when you're creating your bike benefits program is what's the activity that you want to drive. So for us internally, we wanted to, just like I said, one of our goals was just to get people riding their bikes. So we ended up doing a trips-based challenge versus a distance-based challenge. So every month, employees are encouraged to get on their bike 25 times. There's no distance requirements, so it doesn't matter how far you go. There's no date and time requirements, so you don't have to be Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You can ride on Sunday at 2 in the afternoon if you want, and that will be counted towards your total of 25 trips. And there's also no location requirements. So it's not a bike to work program, it's a bike everywhere program. So that's kind of how we designed our internal program. We've seen a lot of success, but this kind of shows that each program can be catered to each organization's needs. And I think that that's been kind of the highlight of what we've learned so far in our venture to get bike benefits programs adopted across the country. Next slide, please. So the future, if we do our jobs well, the hope is that bike benefit programs become a standard practice because they help organizations solve problems and keep employees happy and healthy. That's our goal. And we're glad that you tuned in today to talk through this because you're a part of the solution and helping get these programs adopted everywhere. Next slide, please. And a couple of key takeaways to just like what our next steps. As JP mentioned, we use the RideSpot platform as our way to facilitate bike benefits programming. The RideSpot is a free app that you can download today. So if you're not currently a RideSpot user, I'd encourage you to go download the app to see what it's all about. It is the best-in-class example of bicycle wayfinding, and then we also inspire participation through national challenges every month. In fact, in May, we have a Bike to Work challenge coming for Bike to Work Week, which is designated by the League of American Bicyclists. So we'd encourage you to join that if you want to see what a bike benefits program would look like through the app. That's a free way to try that out. And then we also encourage you to implement programming. So if you're a decision maker at your place of employment, we'd encourage you to get people riding bikes through a bike benefits program. If you're not the final decision maker, we'd encourage you to ask senior leadership to bring bike benefits program in-house. And we've actually created on the screen here, you see a template, which just kind of outlines some of the key benefits of bike benefit programming and just kind of provides you with those words and the phrases that will help encourage senior leadership to look into this type of programming for your place of employment. So that'll be a resource we'll send around after the presentation as well, because it's a template that you can just fill in your name and who you're sending it to, and then you can change the words if you'd like, but it's just a way to get started, makes it easier to ask for this type of program. And I believe that takes us into the Q&A section.
Yes, it does. Ryan, JP, Anna, thank you all so much. We have some questions that have come in, but everyone, if you're in the audience, please do keep sending in questions. We have about 7 minutes for a good discussion. So this first one for the group from Catherine: how specifically do you communicate the return on investment of healthy commuting to employers? What data do you use?
Yeah, I'll take a quick try at that one. So we've done a fair amount of research. There is pretty good data out there about, the difference between kind of frustration and health aspects for car commuting versus kind of like the health benefits and everything for bike commuting. I think where we're trying to add to the literature too is where, we're in that switching from one to the other helps. And so, when we're able to quantify everything through RideSpot, that's what we're hoping to turn around and translate into like, well, here is the actual carbon offset, the health, calories burned, things like that. So we're pairing that research with the actual data we're able to collect there.
Yeah, I'll just add that there is good data on, the cost of a parking space or a parking garage versus, cost of bike facilities. And it's just, it's a no-brainer. The companies we work with often have parking caps that they have to meet or they'll be fined by the city or municipality. So they turn to us and other vendors like, for shuttles to get their employees out of their cars just for that reason. So it really is kind of a bottom line kind of consideration for some of our companies. I will say that a good way to kind of justify any programming is to start with a pilot and go from there and make sure that you have a really robust way to collect data so you can show executives and management that this program really works. Just to give you a quick example, at Genentech, we started a cargo bike pilot where we replaced service vehicles with e-cargo bikes, and it's basically 100% replaced the need to drive these big vans around campus. So really, if you have an idea, you can start with it and run with it, and likely it will show that biking actually helps the bottom line, and then also what JP mentioned has some significant health and wellness benefits too.
And then just really quick, I answered one kind of through the window, but Catherine had also asked if the benefits that we're doing here at People for Bikes are taxable benefits. And yes, they are currently. It'll be interesting to see just, what options open up if we do get a bike commuter tax credit back into federal law. But for now, it's a taxable benefit for us, or taxable income.
Great. One question for Ryan related to this. How did you land on the $4 per trip at People for Bikes? Is there a cap for the month or year?
Yeah, this actually assigning the benefits is like one of the most exciting parts of developing a new program, in my opinion. And so we had a lot of fun trying to think through what the actual incentive amount should be. So one of the ways we identified the $4 was strictly based on budget. So we do cap it at $100 max per person. So that's that 25 trips. So each month an employee can earn up to $100 in cash. And then if they spend that $100 within the bike industry, we give them another $100, doubling down on the investment. So an employee has the opportunity to earn a total of $2,400 a year. And that was just from a budget standpoint. So we did look at what does participation usually look like for a program like this? And then how much do we have in the budget that we would be willing to allocate towards this type of programming? So that's how we came up with our number. Good news is we're actually blowing our budget out of the water. So I don't know if senior leadership would say that's good news, but as the person who helps facilitate the program, I'm super excited to report that our participation rate has been well above even what we expected. And that was in the coldest months of the year. So I can't wait to look at the end of the year and see how much money we end up spending on this program, but it's going to be significant. And it's something that, we really believe in. So that's why we invested in it.
Great. As we answer these last few questions, I want to make sure that our panelists' content info is up on the screen, so y'all can take note of that as well. We have one question that came through from Daryl in the chat, asking about Walmart. What specific actions have they taken to support bike benefit programs in the region? And are there other bike brands in the region that they've been working with?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the first and foremost thing is the design of the new campus, which, it won't be open for a couple more years. But part of it is investing again in those kind of like quicker solutions in existing buildings. Another is just, bringing on a programming partner. And then yet there are a number of, very strong cultures of shops and everything, but also Walmart also owns a brand, Moose Jaw, that's here and is able to kind of support some of that programming as well. But we as People for Bikes are trying to kind of work with a number of local partners, and those are both nonprofits, for-profits. Some of them are focused on, bike access for those with any barriers to getting a bike. Some of them are focused on adaptive cycles and kind of things for people with different abilities. And so we've got a big pool of partners we're working with here.
Great. Okay, let's take these final two questions, but if you have more, please do write to the panelists with their contact info on the screen. Another one from Matt, for any of the panelists, what are some of the best performing organizations? Basically, when all these supports are in place, what does that translate to in terms of % of the org regularly commuting by bike?
So biking is still relatively low of a mode split. But just to give you like some context, cities usually are at like 2.5%, 3% bike mode split, and anyone on the panel can correct me if I'm wrong because numbers aren't my thing. But usually organizations that we work with have a 5 or 6% mode split, and 10% mode split as an ambition is even just like having that written down as a goal is actually pretty groundbreaking. So that's kind of what success looks like. If you pair it with other kind of programming to, discourage SOV or single occupancy vehicle driving, you'll have just, greater success. I'm trying to think of what Stanford is. Stanford has like, I want to say like 60. Don't quote me. I won't. Stanford will yell at me. So yeah. Anyone else want to answer that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that because I've thought a lot about like these specific numbers. And Anna, I second your the numbers that you quoted about like 2%, if an organization is unincentivized to ride their bikes, you can usually count on 2 to 3% choosing bicycle as their preferred mode of transportation. With an incentive package in place, we're aspiring to get to that 10% number of participation. But the participation percentage is an interesting number to like break down. So what does that mean? Does it mean rode their bike one time? Does it mean rode their bike every day? Does it mean, so I think, the numbers that we've been using at People for Bikes that have been impactful for seeing what changes we're driving are completion rates of the program. So if we have each employee has an opportunity to collect 25 trips of an incentive, and then so that number multiplied by the number of employees and then divided by the number of actual trips is completion percentage. And that completion percentage really provides a lot of insight into what's actually happening. Like, are people riding one time and that's a participation rate, or are they riding 25 times and that's a completion rate? So if you want more information about the numbers we're using internally and with our partners, please feel free to email me. I've thought a ton about these numbers, and this is something that's really important to me as we look at what type of impacts we're driving.
Oh, Kyler, you're muted.
Thank you, Anna. I know we're at time, but just because I promised that we'd have this one final question from a colleague, we can answer it quickly. I hope JPSC, you're typing. Is Bikes Make Life Better a separate organization from People for Bikes? Yes, it is. And what are the different program packages available? If you could just a quick overview, and then we'll close it out for the morning.
Yeah, so that was actually on one of our initial slides where we explain the organization, but anything from a trip to facilities to incentive programs to bike shops that we run on campuses to bike fleets that we also run on campuses or at large organizations to whatever your bike problem is here, we are happy to help you with.
Awesome. Everyone, thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you again to our three panelists. You'll see the information for the recording and the slides up on our website in the next few days, and you'll get that over email as well if you registered. And tune in next month for totally different content. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.